one of the reasons why you know, film music's become more popular in an orchestral sense is because actually a lot of people who, you know, are interested in music other than songs or bands and things like that, they like orchestral music and they buy orchestral CDs of popular classics and things like that, but they find the modern concert hall too challenging very often because the music itself is challenging and the environment is quite challenging. I think that it's something that most orchestras are conscious of and want to try and encourage people to come and listen to orchestras. This is not, the music in this show is not a kind of sop to that sentiment. It's quite simply that because this is film music and because it represents an enormous diversity of behavior and characters and so on, it draws on all kinds of musical influences and styles in the way that film music can to make its effect. And so a lot of the music is very light and quite fun, and some of it will be familiar to the audience, and some of it's quite jazzy. We have like feature soloists in the concert and so on, and at the same time there's a lot of big dramatic action-packed orchestral music that is what film scores are known to supposedly do best, and certainly gives enormous impact to these huge images that are up there on the screen. It's not that unusual for a film composer to give concerts of their music, and I've given quite a few concerts of music in the past. And when the concert of the Blue Planet first was a possibility, which was soon after we did the original TV series, the idea initially was that we would do a concert of the music, and then it became clear when I started to decide what to play in the concert that actually, because the show, the music was so about the action of the Blue Planet, and because it had such a particular relationship with the oceans, that by seeing the pictures and playing the music, instead of just listening to the music and watching the pictures, it actually became about watching the picture again, but in a different way. When you watch the program, you're conscious of seeing the images and the images being explained to you by the voiceover. When you see the concert, you're conscious of the images in a much more powerful way, because all you have is the effects that are part of the images and the music, but on a massive scale. So the screen is the size of a 3-story house. The orchestra is about 80 strong with a choir, and all this happens with lighting and sound and so on. So the effect on the audience is very kind of overwhelming in a way. It's not over there, it's right here, and you feel the involvement with what happens on the screen. The key reason why it's possible to do this with the Blue Planet is that although the TV series was a scientific series about the oceans, the reason it was so successful was because they spent years and years filming enough footage to be able to represent whole stories, which had never been filmed before, because it's obviously incredibly difficult to film under the water. But by filming a whole story in an environment that we can't ever visit in that way, you end up with a drama that is so familiar in terms of the goodie and the baddie, or the mother and the child, or whatever, that you become, when you see it on the big screen, and particularly when you see it with an audience, you're becoming emotionally involved with what happens on the screen. And that's the reason for doing the show. The reason for doing the show is to make people engage with the oceans in a way that they can't possibly do via the television screen. And by doing that and engaging in it in that way, that they then hopefully leave with a sense of how awesome it is, and how precious it is, and how much of our planet it represents, and therefore hopefully at the end they feel that it's worth preserving. And but I think the two things that sum up the concert in a way, hopefully, are that it's entertaining and it's fun and it's emotional, because it's on such a big scale and it's not filtered through any scientific explanation. It's just up there and quite different than seeing it on the TV.